Determine which shortcuts can be used to prove two triangles congruent and better. And explain why they are the only ones that work. There we go. You will put 1.3, you'll put that statement determining which ones. So which ones work? SSS, we got it to work in class, right? What else did we find? Angle, side, angle, we got that one to work before we left. Side, angle, side, any more? Angle, angle, side. This one we said, if you lock this angle in and this angle, and you make them the set distance apart, if your partner does that, those very same two angles and locks them the same distance, it has to go to the same point. It will be congruent, okay? It is a shortcut. And then we said this one, if I know these two angles are the same as the two angles of the other triangle, guess what else we know? The third angle of this one is congruent to the third angle. How come? Both triangles have a triangle sum of 180 for all three angles. So if these two are the same as those two, the remaining ones got to be the same, right? Therefore, this one is true because that one is true. If we know this one's true because the angle that's not listed here is on the other side of this S, and we have ASA. Does everybody understand the logic there? Okay. What else? Did that work? We talked about that. That was the, is that the one you do in the sliding one? The board up here? So, what would you do here? Do an example that shows this isn't a shortcut. Have an example there, a picture of a triangle that has the same angles as this triangle, but they're obviously not congruent. Okay? Any more? SSA is not. Did you find that? Yes? No? Or did it work for you? Did you play around with the... You're shaking your head. No, it didn't work, or no, it did work? Or
it didn't work.
It didn't work. What did the rest of the class find? Can anybody put a counterexample up for this? Yes, that proves that it is not. Have you got one? That proves that it will not be a shortcut that's valid. Which sides are the same? I can't tell you.
So this one, well, they're supposed to be. That one and that one.
Oh, that's what
Sorry.
I was.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then
Does everybody follow her? Here's one way to look at it. If I put the compass point right there, and put the pencil of the compass right here, and went like this, that length has got to be the same as that length because my compass measures lengths, right? That's the purpose of it, is to maintain a constant length. And so this one is the same as this one. You see how it's come in instead of coming out? And those obvious, well, this triangle here is not congruent to this one here. Because it's on top of it and it doesn't match. And yet, there's an angle and a side and then another side where the angle is not the included angle, it's out here. Does that make sense? Okay. And one way that you remember that this one doesn't work is that, remember how we talked this one could be written as SAA because it's the non-included side? Or if we rewrote this a little different way, it would be a word we wouldn't want to use at BYU, Idaho. Nor would you want your junior high students using. And therefore, it's good that it doesn't work.
What did geometry in your classroom?
Okay. We've got counter examples for these, right? And you might just a brief explanation about why this works. Well, you could say we took Cuisinart rods in class, and my partner built using the same lengths as I did, and there's no way you can not get them to be congruent. You know, you could explain it that way, something like that. Okay? Does everybody see what we're doing?
So I just pulled it up and
Hold what up?
the outcomes.
Uh-huh.
So for
Under your tab?
1.1 is make basic compass and straight edge constructions and make those same constructions with patty paper. Like, how are we supposed to explain that just definition, or because it basically does, like how do we further do that and then do examples for that?
I would recommend going to that website that the homework sent you to get some.
So do you want us to explain what a compass is, a straight edge, is that what we're?
No, I want you to explain to me, how do I bisect an angle with a compass and straight edge? So you'll say, put the point of your compass at the vertex, sweep an arc across both rays, then you can go up and put the point of your compass where that intersection point was and draw an arc in the center of the angle without changing your compass, move the point to the other one, draw it, and now connect with your straight edge, the vertex, and that intersection point. Does that make sense?
So we really shouldn't just look at that title, but we should go into it more into the
Yes.
unit itself. Okay.
So when I get it, I can say, oh, she's got a guide here that will step her through how to do each one of those constructions.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay, so it's a resource you'll take with you to your classroom in case you end up teaching constructions. Yes. Mark?
Isn't the reflection part of the personal resource, or is it separate?
It's separate.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
reflection is due on Tuesday and the personal resource is due on.
Well, the personal resources due before you take your test. You should have your personal resource all finished before you go take the test. Why? It's meant to help pull things together.
So when do you want our personal resource turned in?
The deadline for me is Friday at 9 o'clock because
So
nobody can
tomorrow?
turn it in after that. No, a week from this Friday.
Oh, okay.
A week from this Friday. However, if you would like feedback on your reflection questions, you must be done with it by Tuesday midnight, I think. In which case, if you submit that to me, I will give you what I have put together. It may not be perfect, but it's meant to help you find any holes in your answers. Maybe you left off a certain detail, and after you read mine, you go, "Ooh, I need to include that in mine." Then you can modify yours before you upload it to me. Does that make sense? So the personal resource, the final one is due Friday at 9. But please, if you're going to go down and take the test Wednesday afternoon, be done with it by then. You don't have to upload it by then, but be done with it. Otherwise, you'll not have the benefit of what I intend. It's to really help you get ready for the exam as well.
So the reflection questions we submit to you on Island?
only if you want feedback on yours. You don't have, this is an optional thing. The Tuesday midnight deadline is optional. But if you don't turn it in, you don't get the feedback,
Right.
and you don't get to modify yours, so
And that does go in the personal resource?
it does.
Okay.
So you might as well do it. Get it done by Tuesday, get the feedback, change that.
So will we have a test review, or is the textbook resource is Thursday?
If you've noticed, the assignment that's due Tuesday is a, what do we call it? Shapes and Tools Practice Skills Test. It's going to be very much like the kinds of things I will ask you to do on the exam. Okay, so, and it is retakeable as many times as you want until you get the grade you want or until you learn what you need to learn. So keep working through it until you're satisfied with you've got it all learned or you've got the grade you want out of it. Okay, and that's due next Tuesday. After next Tuesday, I don't believe you can make any changes to it or improve the score. Okay? So does everybody see where we're going and what we're doing? And then on Tuesday, we'll handle any questions you have about that skills test or anything else as you were putting your personal resource together. If you have questions, we can answer those. And then we'll launch the new unit and get going on it even before the test is totally closed. Okay? Each unit will do this. If you would like to get a head start on Unit 2, which is called measurement, you can find the reflection questions for those. You can find all of the vocabulary words to start your glossary, and as we go along, you can kind of build that and have it all done by the time you get to the end, if you want. Or you can procrastinate. Crash the night before it's due, you know, pulling all night, or whatever your style is. Let's ask about quiz questions. Did anybody have questions about the quiz that we did today? It was mostly, what, the circle vocabulary? Anybody want to ask about anything? I noticed after you started taking it that one of my words was misspelled. It's called inscribed angle, and I think the S was off of it, but it's now fixed. It won't be fixed in the one you go to review because it will show you the one you took, but it has an S in it. But does anybody have any other questions they want to ask about circle vocabulary? Yes?
Can you talk about the annulus?
An annulus is this area in between two concentric circles. What are concentric circles? They have the same center. Okay? So the area right here, and then we're getting you ready with the vocabulary, but in the next unit we'll actually have you find the area of this annulus. But just, I don't know, see if this helps. If it helps somebody, if it helps one person, it's worth sharing. If it helps more, I guess it's even more worth it. But annulus looks like it has what root word in it? Or what related word that we might know in English? Annual. Yes. Is it one N, I think? Two N's? Yes. Those two are what we call cognates. Do you know what cognates are? Anybody? Cognates. Cognate. Co means what? The prefix. Together. Cooperate, all those things. Together. And Cognate comes from the Latin word natus, which our word nativity comes from, or native. Are you a native of Idaho? What does that mean? What does nativity and native have to do with each other? Birth. You were born in Idaho if you're an Idaho native. Well, cognates are words that were born together. Back in Latin, they had the very same meaning, the same, and then one came to English, and one came to French, and one came to Spanish, and sometimes two of them come to English, and they have that same, they were born together, they've been changed a little bit. So what does annulus and annual have to do with anything? Well, huh?
Coming full circle. Would go around.
January all the way to December, and you're back now to January, so I hadn't thought of it that way. How many of you have cut down a tree? Or looked at a tree that's been cut down? What does it have? It has rings. And each of those rings represents an annual growth, right? The word annual and the word ring, which is what this really means, come from the same thing because of a tree. And the ring that each year comes out. Anybody know how to say ring in Spanish? Anillo. And that's another cognate that went into the Spanish language. Okay? So this is just a ring. And where does it come from? Well, the same place a ring came from on a tree. It's once a year. Can you see the tie? I don't know. Does that help? That might help you remember it. You know, annulus of a circle. What's that? Annulus. Annual. Ring. Maybe that'll, I don't know. The more you can tie together, the easier things are to remember and make sense of, and the less taxing your short-term memory has. Okay?
Can you have multiple, like counting rings, or is it just one?
You could have more than one concentric circle. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
This could be an annulus, and this could be an annulus, and the two together actually could be an annulus. Yes. Okay, any others? This inscribed angle, we've talked about how circles can be inscribed in triangles and how triangles can be inscribed in circles, right? Here's our circle. Here's our triangle inscribed in the circle. Here's our circle inscribed in this triangle. So here's a triangle inscribed in a circle, and here's a circle inscribed in a triangle. So what would be an inscribed angle? Yeah, that would be the definition. Any angle whose vertex is on the circle and whose rays cut the other side. You wouldn't say this is a inscribed angle, even though its vertex is on the circle. Okay, what else?
I have a question about the quiz, but I have a question about number 7 on homework.
Number 7 on the homework.
135 degrees.
Okay, so we asked you to do what?